Hey, good morning, everyone. Welcome to Friday and to our next edition of Instructor Insights. Brett Ward with Wicklanders-Olowski. Good to be here. Glad to be on the ground. Pretty much kissed the pavement when I walked off my flight last night, and I am praying that we have power throughout this. Coming back into Houston, I've never seen so many people with tears in their eyes walking off airplanes. A little rough yesterday for those of you that were traveling in the Midwest and South. Hope all of you made it back safely as well. But glad to be stationary, glad to be home for a weekend, catch my breath a little bit, spend a little time with you guys, and hope you have a peaceful weekend in front of you too. What I was asked to talk about today, I guess they still don't trust me. 26 years with this outfit, still don't let me choose what I can talk about. But was communication, especially between folks who are trying to generate interest, folks who are trying to build their pool, build their base, people looking for jobs and things like that. And what I know for sure is that so much of what we do professionally has just an equal transition into these types of conversations. So since I had a significant more amount of time yesterday in an airport and on a plane, I was kind of jotting my thoughts down, taking some notes, and thought we would just spend some time sharing them together over the next few minutes. First thing I would say just about convincing and trust and relationship is initiation. Not only just how you start the conversation, but what happened prior to the conversation. I think a lot of people don't realize that you're actually developing relationships long before you're at a conference or, sitting in a meeting with somebody or, applying for a job and getting ready to use references and things like that in order to convince people that you're the right fit. Just this week, I was in Atlanta and working with one of my colleagues, Jake Alba, who assists me in the public division on the contractual side, and was going down there for several law enforcement and federal meetings and learned about a conference that was going on down there, GROC. And Chad McManus, this brother, man, I've known this guy for 2+ decades. He is just a stand-up guy. Well, he got wind that was going to be in town and invited us, gave us an open invitation to come over, and not only come over, but to speak. And, that relationship was built, decades ago. And without it, that type of opportunity never presents itself. And to be able to go in and speak to dozens of law enforcement departments that were attending this actually very well done meeting was just yet another opportunity to open up the line of communication with folks that, they were not on the docket, for that week, but it's about that relationship, that we've built and that trust that we have in each other over those years. So Chad, thank you, brother. I really appreciate that. That was a huge lift for us to be able to come and do that. But I would say, every interaction that you have with somebody, people have memories, okay? They do remember things. And some people for sure are going to remember the really bad experience, whether or not they're brushed off. I've definitely had people, come up to me in conferences and make comments about, other folks that they've had experiences with. You got to keep that in mind that, you don't want to feel like you're on stage every single second of your life, but in theory, you kind of are, when you're out in public or you're in a meeting room or at an interview setting, is that what happened prior is definitely going to play a role in your ability to develop rapport and trust and relationship with somebody. How I even got into this position is just odd. I would say maybe 10 years ago, I was asked to step in and take over the private division for WZ. And of course, I was incredibly interested in doing it. Not that he wasn't busy enough as, an instructor, investigator, consultant for this outfit. I knew I had some incredibly big shoes to fill. And there was going to be a lot of people that, a Doug Wicklander or another person had contacted for years and years and years. And there was like, who's this Brett Ward guy? So it was going to be an uphill battle, from the jump to convince these folks that, I would be their dude moving forward. Zero training, zero expectations, zero experience, but just a desire to grow what I was doing, for WZ. And you just learn, through trial and error and through every phone call and every meeting. But I just took some notes on my thoughts, over these last 10 years. And now that I've absorbed the public division as well. And by the way, thank you to everyone. I mean, I received so many incredible, kind emails and calls and text messages. And again, relationship building comes back to that. But just want to say thank you while I have the platform. Love every single one of them. Incredibly grateful for all of you. And yes, it's been a hell of a run, and I'm looking forward to this new chapter. But here we are again. Now I'm going to have to relearn and grow again, re-educate myself. Interestingly enough, my first 10 years with this outfit, I think 95% of what I did was working with law enforcement. So it's kind of a little bit of a coming home, but I've got to get my brain back into that sector so that I can lead this amazing team that I have that's going to be assisting me. So, what are some of the core components? What are some of the things that I feel are beneficial in my ability to be in meetings and go to conferences and be able to garner interest and have these sidebars? A lot of it, I think, comes down to your commitment to accessibility and timing, and of course, how you communicate with people. Being authentic, being real, being yourself, I think plays just a massive role in this. I'm confident that there are a significant amount of sales firms out there and training firms that could assist in tricks and trades for people to motivate folks to want to utilize them, want to listen to them. But I really think it just comes down to, do people believe in you? Do people believe in your product? And do people believe in what they're going to receive, what their ROI is on what you're going to accomplish in that meeting for their time and in the future, and their training is important enough to stand there and have that conversation or sit in that meeting room with you for however long it takes. And then again, your accessibility. There's so many people out there that, are one-time shots, or, will answer a note or answer an email a week later. And again, people have memories. That's just not going to work. So we've got to be able to be accessible for people. And sometimes that requires maybe working a tick past that 5 p.m. in your time zone. Rapport obviously plays a massive role in what we're talking about today. It's been a re-education for me. I know for some of the WZ instructors, since we started teaching the orbit model, that if you haven't had exposure to that, you should ask for it. But being able to understand no, being able to understand rejection and how you handle that, not only in the moment, but in the future, I think is, again, critical to relationship and critical to trust, and whether or not people, in fact, want to leave that door open for future communication. And when I say rapport, I'm not talking about I want to end up on your Christmas card list. That's definitely not in my DNA. But more along the lines of the ability to just effectively communicate and negotiate, and find that balance of when there's distrust or when there's rejection or any type of maladaptive behavior, that you have the ability to move people through that, without shutting them down or without wanting them to walk away. I think another thing is just simple creating curiosity, which those of you who've been through training with us know we talk about curiosity and urgency. I pick up on things when I'm walking around different conferences and listening to people communicate, but you hear so many people just really pitching or, trying to sales pitch somebody, versus really, you don't want to have this "you need us" attitude. You want to have this "I'm here for your time. I want to listen to your needs and your targeted objectives." So again, entry into that conversation, I think is critical versus explaining to people right off the bat, this is who we are and how long we've been around, and this is what we offer and how many clients we have and all this other stuff that you hear people say. But more of an engagement of just open-ended communication, maybe letting people have the floor, letting them brag about themselves and let them talk about their history and their team and their understanding of their needs, so that you can customize the conversation at that point in time. I also think that a lot of us, especially those of us who speak for a living and have for decades, just need to know when to shut the hell up every once in a while and allow people to communicate. We talk an awful lot about question structure and timing and development of strategic communication, and then turn around and when we're not on stage or, we're not teaching or something like that, don't use it when we should be just in, those one-on-ones. I, a lot of times in my meetings, want to initiate more with their history, and their goals and their team makeup and what they struggle with and who they've worked with in the past, and what went well and what went wrong and what was the communication level with their contact, with their liaison, and what could have been better. And likewise, I've always been one who doesn't always, when people say, hey, I'm this company's person, like I'm a WZ person or I'm a FIS person or I'm this person, I politely say, we need to be all of those. If we're going to be the most well-rounded, you should never, say this is the way I've done it. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. I've always said, see them all, put them all on your resume. They all look good. Best communicators on the planet are the ones that have the most strategy, the ones that can bob and weave and improvise based on, what's happening directly in front of them. So I think sometimes we probably would be more served to initiate our conversation with a little bit more of them and maybe a little bit less of us. And then once we have that background, once we have a clear understanding of where we need to go in that setting and how we need to communicate, then take over and help guide people through those questions and through those doubts and convincing them. I think transparency is important too in face-to-face and in meetings. As somebody who played ball their entire life, and can give you a million analogies from that, but you could have the best, starting pitching rotation in the world, but without a great bullpen, you're done. You're going to be in the basement forever. And we need to help people understand that we're not flying solo out there. And, when people ask questions and we don't necessarily have the best answer, just being transparent about it and saying, I'm going to find the right answer for you. And I'm going to get you connected with somebody who is significantly more educated on that than I, so that they can lead the charge on that answer for you. I think builds credibility. I don't think it makes you any less of a leader or anything like that, but more along the lines of, hey, this person is shooting straight with me and I trust them. I know we're going into full conference swing. I've actually been able to attend a couple myself already, speak at a couple. Was down in Vegas and did one for ROPSA, which was fantastic. I've done an HR Star for Braden out in California. We love supporting as many of those as we can. I know Thompson just went out and did one, I believe, recently with RELA. We very much look forward to seeing you guys at NRF Protect in Long Beach. A handful of us will definitely be out there. I believe that's the first week of June, June 4th through 6th. Look forward to seeing you guys out there. And if you'd love to talk shop or set aside some time for a meeting, definitely let me know. Shoot me a note. I'd be happy to. In fact, I'll put a little link in here for you just so you know where all of us are going to be. Upcoming. Patty, thank you for sending that to me. But a couple other things that I put down in my notes is, time invested. And I think a lot of times in these conversations, people get the impression that it's a one-time shot. You get their FaceTime for one time and they're going to pass you off to somebody else. I think we need to be open and be honest with people and say, no, this isn't a one-time shot. I'm your dude moving forward. Now, again, if I'm at 36,000 feet in the air, there is a stable full of talented people that can help you, in my absence. But you're going to have access to me and not my office number. Here's my mobile number, and you can reach me as you see fit. And as soon as I'm boots on the ground, I will make sure and hunt you down. Again, so many different factors other than just the conversation itself that I think develops leads and develops good sales strategies and develops good sales people. In other words, just not providing that canned pitch and that, salesy approach. And this is why we're better than everybody else. The timeliness issue, the transparency issue, kind of already talked about that. And just, pure professionalism. And I think oftentimes we get caught up in little things like we need to spend an hour with somebody. I got to tell you, if you spend an hour with somebody in a meeting, I'm guessing that was not what should have happened during that. I think you can get information across. It's kind of like the investigative interview, right? If you're in there for an hour and walk away with very little, I'm thinking you might have gone to a plan B a little bit sooner. Again, allowing them to construct and talk and communicate up front, and then taking over the conversation to ensure that you're answering their questions and making sure that your company can meet their targeted objectives and goals in a timely manner, and accessibility and trust, I think is important. But we want to make sure that, things, like a tire. I get that question all the time. What is an appropriate attire? What is an appropriate time of day? I'm not even convinced that that's part of it. I don't think, overdressing the person that you're talking to or underdressing them by 2 levels is a great idea. But again, I just don't think a pretty suit or what you're wearing is going to convince somebody. It might convince them that you're out of touch, or, not speaking on their psychological playing field, or thinking that you're at a different level than somebody. I think being relaxed and being professional, and guys, shine those shoes every once in a while, try to look decent when you get in there, is just a great idea to do. One of the last things I wanted to talk about was just gratitude. I've always made it a point, and I will continue to do so in the public sector, is not just showing gratitude for people who bring us on board, but just gratitude for time. Sending people notes and just saying, hey, I really enjoyed, just jumping on a Teams call, or thanks for taking the time to see me while I was in New York last week, or making sure that, that regardless of who you choose or what direction that you go, that we're always going to be here. And that when the time is right, that I will run point on this for you and be more than happy to. But following up in your communications and ensuring post those face-to-faces that people understand that you valued it, that you valued their time, and you valued them utilizing you guys. And then how many times do I connect with them after that, finding that art form? For me, you're probably going to hear from me minimum 3 times a year. And again, most of these folks, I'll notes all the time from just like Christmas emails that I'll send people, or cards or something like that. But just keeping in consideration that every time you have an opportunity, there was one other thing I wrote down too. I think this is valuable. Definitely spending time with leaders is important. Okay. The number one, okay. The person who is in charge and the person who is managing the program and making probably the buck stop here decision. But I think making sure you do your homework and finding out who the number 2 and number 3 are, and also keeping your eyes open in these conferences and in these meetings for those diamonds. And people in our field, they know it, they recognize it. I can always see somebody who you're like, that person right there, she is going to be leading a team very soon. Making sure you carve out time for them as well. If there's multiple people in a meeting, multiple people need to be addressed, not just one person. And then those reach outs and those follow-ups over time. I've had significant success since taking over the private division with that thought process of reaching out to the number 2 and the number 3 and the directors and the regionals, and saying, I'm here for you as well, and make sure we keep in touch. I see a lot in you, and I want to remain that way. I want to remain in touch with you. So again, relationship and rapport and transparency and being authentic, timing, your availability, your follow-up. I think that's just all incredibly important. It's all things that we discuss in the art of investigative interviewing as well. So use those translations when you do it. I'll shut up. You guys have a wonderful Friday. It's great to be back on here. Thanks for letting me do this, Patty and Derek. Enjoy doing it for you. I can help out anytime. Come about October, I think I'm going to be in full swing in this new role. I've told the folks that I had speaking engagements 4 that were on the books from last year or early this year. There was no way I wasn't coming. So I will be out there, and hopefully, by Q3 or Q4, so I'll be in full swing in this new role. So I look forward to coming to your town and meeting with you. I'd love to set aside some time and have a coffee and catch up properly. You guys have a wonderful weekend. We'll see you again soon.